So let me tell you how I met Jesse Houle. And always I mispronounce his name, but I hope this time I get it right. Don't confuse with other candidate. But it was part of this group of young people who were very crazy, and they occupying the arch of University of Georgia. And then I discovered other guy there in the lawn. His name is Chris Dodd and Tim Denson and Adam. And then we were there. We just arrived there with this group of people, and then they start recognize the work we do, and they're like, yeah. I mean, we've been working with this community for a couple of years now, and then you come and try to occupy the place we do the protest. It was good times, and I think it's still been a good times. We're ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah. So let me introduce the band. Noe Mendoza, my brother in guitar vocals. Audi Lee, who's percussion. And Beto Mendoza.
Oh, yeah. If you want me to. Oh, it's good. You want more? Okay.
That's much better.
Okay.
So let's do the whole song, okay? Let's start with... Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So we're gonna take you around the Andes. We've been doing this set for a long, long time, and if you already heard, the only advantage we have is that we don't play much, 2-3 times a year, so it's okay. You can keep listening to the same songs until next year, maybe. Was it? The first melody is from Peru. El cóndor pasa. You may say that I heard that before. Yeah, yeah. Paul Simon. You know the appropriation of the land of the America. It did not end 500 years ago. The white men is still taking over our melodies, our songs. So this is the case with this song. Paul Simon took over this melody and make If I Could. So we're gonna play one song. I'm sorry that make you uncomfortable. Not at all. That's good. That's the spirit. Let's go back to the music. Sorry, did he say entertainment? Man, you know me.
Don't get political, Beto.
Don't get political, Beto. This is too political.
Well, we need to make Athens on fire.
Yeah, it's Athens on fire for everyone. So this song, the next song, we're gonna play 3 songs together. One is from Bolivia, and the rhythm is saya. The second one is huayno from Peru, and the third one is carnaval. And these 3 rhythms are very similar, and we can merge it. But there is a lot of difference in the indigenous music, and also some of the names have been changed because they destroy everything. They destroy our instruments. They impose their gods, their way of view, and all these things. So, but this is kind of what we have left from Latin America. From Bolivia, La Fiesta de San Benito. ¿Dónde se ha metido mi negra?
Cargada de su guaguita bailando, cargada de su guaguita bailando.
¿Dónde está mi negra cantando?
Con la saya de Tundinqui bailando, con la saya de Tundinqui cantando. Negra, samba, coge tu mante, siempre adelante. Negra, samba, coge tu mante, siempre adelante. Negra, samba, coge tu mante, siempre adelante.
Es el regalo de San Benito
para la fiesta de los negritos.
Aquí un lorito con su monito, aquí un lorito con su monito. Es el regalo de San Benito
para la fiesta de los negritos.
Es el regalo de San Benito
para la fiesta de los negritos.
Un viejo caña con su caballo, un viejo caña con su caballo.
Está durmiendo en su cabaña, está durmiendo en su cabaña.
From Perú. a poco me has querido, poco a poco me has amado y al final todo has cambiado, chascosita de mi amor. Oh, poco a poco me has querido, poco a poco me has amado, al final todo has cambiado, chascosita de mi amor.
Nunca digas que no, Cholita,
Nunca digas jamás, reinita,
son cosas del amor, vivita.
cosas del corazón.
Nunca digas que no, Cholita,
Nunca digas jamás, reinita,
son cosas del amor, vivita.
cosas del corazón. Canción y guayno para bailar, canción y saya para cantar. Now, the next song is about La Quebrada. La Quebrada is this region in between Brazil and Argentina. So once upon a time, this region reach other parts of the world because it was a border town where Mercadish passed from the Brazil, the coast, to Argentina and the rest of South America, and the rest of South America to Europe. But now today is one of the poorest region in Latin America, and that is the lack of Latin America. That once upon a time we were so rich. We have oil, we have gold, we have silver. And now those places has nothing. We just have hands, and those hands are immigrating, crossing the border, looking for job. Fiesta de la quebrada humahuaqueña para bailar.
Erque, charango y bombo, carnavalito para cantar.
Fiesta de la quebrada humahuaqueña para bailar.
Erque, charango y bombo, carnavalito para cantar.
Llegando está el carnaval, quebradeño mi cholita. Llegando está el carnaval, quebradeño mi cholita.
Fiesta de la quebrada humahuaqueña para bailar. Erque, charango y bombo, carnavalito para cantar.
Llegando está el carnaval, quebradeño mi cholita. Llegando está el carnaval, quebradeño mi cholita.
Fiesta de la quebrada humahuaqueña para bailar. Erque, charango y bombo, carnavalito para cantar.
Quebradeño,
Humahuaqueñita,
quebradeño,
humahuaqueñita. Fiesta de la quebrada humahuaqueña para bailar. Erque, charango y bombo, carnavalito para cantar. Y arriba Latinoamérica. Well, thank you for having us in here. It's a pleasure to play for Jesse, good friend and good activist. So we hope we continue for many, many, many years this relationship we got with all you guys. And now we got people inside to the government. So we got to continue to make those changes because the people deserve it.
So, yeah, just to say goodbye, and also like I help with the transition between the speeches we're gonna have here. Yeah, I have a lot to say for the people I love, for the people who's been like, not because they're behind us, I love them because the people they are, the way they are, the spirit they are, and we share all this time together fighting for justice in every single angle. But even though I don't believe in the monolithic power and I always work with the popular power, we are present in those places. And our big lesson was when Barack Obama get elected. We get there celebrating the inauguration in Little Kings, and everybody was happy. Even with the re-election, people were happy. Even today, his legacy has been get the vote for Joe Biden in the South Carolina. But what that does mean for me, it was deportations ramp up, and was the president who deport more people in the history of the United States until then. Barack Obama make a huge damage to our movement that we believe in that shit, in that piece of work. And then we see our families being separated, deported. And then he made this deportation machine so perfect that when Donald Trump took office, he just take it to the extreme and make it perfect for not only to deport, but torture. You can see the kids in the cages, no? Or maybe you don't know this, but the 3-year-old kid in front of the judge, because now under Trump administration, the kids, they have to represent themselves. So you see this turtle in front of the judge, trying to explain the cartel and how the weapons USA has been selling in his country kill all the entire family. So yeah, that's our reality, and that is start not with Barack Obama, not with Donald Trump, but Bill Clinton also. He made the Illegal Immigration Reform Act, and they sell it like, oh, we're gonna do this immigration reform, blah blah blah. But what we see is the enforcement and the criminalization. Finally, we fight so hard. The Dreamers win DACA, and then they appropriate from that win. They say, well, we give it to you, the progressive party give to DACA, but DACA, these guys were deported. My friend Giovanni, who was protesting for the Dream Act, and he was arrested so many times, now is in his hometown in a place when he doesn't have anything, and he's advocating for clean water. He's advocating, he's fighting over there the good fight. Samaniego also, he's been traveling all over the places. He took a picture with Elizabeth Warren, and he was in these high places fighting the good fight. Next day, he get in jail in Gwinnett County. 1 year of torture in the deportation machine in those centers, and then he breaked out and signed up his deportation. Yeah, this is the entertainment, I'm sorry, but that is our reality. That is what is I'm facing. Friday morning, I have this call from a member of our community in Athens, And so ICE was in Tallahassee Road, and there were like 6 cars with these heavily armored white and black people taking migrants. One story, just to put in context. And the person who told us is afraid to come out right now and say that story. But we're going to pressure, we're talking with Melissa Link, and we want to talk with every single person in power. If Jesse gets empowered, we're going to make you accountable for that. So make sure that you understand what you are. But this guy went to work, he called Lyft, and then the officers stopped him. And I start asking for his citizenship. Of course, he's an American citizen, just a brown American citizen, second, third, I think, class of American citizen. But he born in USA, and so they just let him go. But that is not going to happen to any white person who take a lift and get stopped because they're looking for someone, because they're looking for a banker who stole the money from the bank, and they stop every single white person there. No, it's just happening to us. And this American citizen is afraid to come out and say they violate my rights, my constitutional rights. And this is only one. All the kids who born in mixed status families, one parent is undocumented or others, they can't speak. They cannot, they're afraid that even though when they are 18, 20, 21, they're afraid because their family can be deported. So, yeah, that is the speech that welcoming Jesse Houle. But I'm pretty much sure that Athens is better because each one of you. I'm here now. That's it. Thank you.
Alrighty, y'all, let's give it up for Ecatepec. Woo! Yeah, awesome. Well, hi, y'all. I'm Caitlin. I'm the volunteer coordinator for Jesse for Athens campaign. Woo! And I want to say a big welcome and thank you all for being here. This is an amazing crowd. Look around at this community. It's unbelievable. Woo! Yes. Okay, perfect. So also I wanted to personalize this a little bit and just give y'all a quick story about why I am here, why I decided to sign up as a volunteer coordinator for Jesse's campaign. And I would say that first and foremost, if you haven't had a conversation with Jesse, I would highly recommend it. That is one inspiring person. After I had one conversation, I was like, I'm in, I'm done. All of your ideas are inspirational. You're really gonna be able to make a change for this community. And the fact is also I love how you're about the community. You wanna make a change with the community. You're about partnering. You've already done so much. I believe in Jesse Houle, and I'm so glad that y'all do too. Welcome, have fun, and here's Jesse.
Please give it up for Caitlin Moore, stepping up, doing a job usually in larger campaigns, which this one's turning into. Someone would get paid, and she's doing it for free. So please, Caitlin and all the volunteers here. And please, one more time for Ecatepec, Beto Noy Mendoza, Adi Lee. I guess I want to check in real quick and say thank you for explicitly saying things that would hold me accountable. Like, that's what everyone in this room needs to do. That's what government should be, is collective accountability. So this is being recorded. Ask me things, hold me accountable. If I get in there, we need to make things happen together, and I need to not forget what I've told you all here, which I don't plan to. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to share, Caitlin said, Jesse will do these things, will make these things happen. And I truly believe that we're already making these things happen. My background is in community organizing. We use what we like to call a transformative organizing model. And the idea behind that is that you keep doing things. You win victories along the way to build to the next thing. It's a never-ending process. You're walking toward the horizon, not because you ever expect to get there, not because we're going to see the utopia we dream of, but because we know that we can make change in our day-to-day lives on the way to there, and that's just what guides us. It's like the compass that takes us to the horizon. And so by being here today, by having the conversations we're having together today, every day before and every day after, we're already transforming our lives and our community. So thank you for being a part of that. The first friend I'd like to call up here is Gabe Shippey. And Gabe Shippey is an organizer with the Democratic Party of Georgia and the Clarke County Democrats. We first met when we were organizing on the regional level for progressive change in North Georgia. Please give it up for my friend Gabe Shippey.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. How are we feeling? This is pretty exciting, isn't it? Look, thank you. Look, 2020 is already shaping up to be a big year politically, nationally, obviously, but I think that's also playing out here at the state and local level. And when I think of Athens, I seriously cannot think of a more perfect example of a city in need of a political revolution. You know, we hear that term all the time. We associate it with Bernie's campaign and kind of this larger thing. But I look at what's going on here in Athens, and it's like we've got local businesses getting run out of town. We're at this intersection of poverty and privilege. I see it every day. I work 2 jobs. They're both downtown. And my full-time job is at the Hilton Garden Inn. You know, this big, multinational, very well-to-do corporation where we put on our nice suits and we put on a show. And then I walk outside like 50 feet from the front door and I'm on Clayton Street and there's homeless people. There's people that don't have a roof over their head in the wealthiest country on earth. And it makes me really sick. And then like a couple blocks north of that, we've got the university. This university that can't come to terms with how complicit it is with the wealth inequality in this city and a lot of the problems we have. And so that leads us to where we are today with this campaign, with this movement. And I think when I think of Jesse and the campaign that they're running, this is really about a larger movement that rejects the politics of compromising and capitulating at the expense of marginalized communities. It's a movement that embraces the politics of what's possible rather than what we can't do. We're always being told what we can't do. Well, I know Jesse's going to reject that when he gets in office. I know he's going to do better than that, and that's why we're all here. You know, Jesse is not only a really good friend of mine, but I honestly, I've told Jesse this, I've told others this. I've considered Jesse one of my political heroes. I saw him stand up in front of 5,000 people the day that Trump was inaugurated, and he spoke truth to power, like they've always been doing. And I think when they get into public office, it won't be any different than that. They're going to be rallying people and building the kind of coalitions we need. They're going to be speaking truth to power. They're going to be standing up for communities and people that don't already have a seat at the table. And that's why I'm so proud and so excited to be able to vote for a candidate that not only matches my politics, but I know the character in their heart. I know the kind of person they're going to be when they get in office. I know the kind of agenda they're going to pursue. I don't have to cross my fingers, hold my breath, and hope that they do the right thing, hope that they follow through on their promises. I know exactly what I'm going to get when it comes to Jesse Houle, and that's why I'm so glad that all of you are here. I know others are going to be involved throughout the next couple of months, and I think we're going to accomplish something really special together. So with that, I'm just very proud to endorse my good friend Jesse Houle for Athens-Clarke County District 6. Thank you. Absolutely.
Thank you, Gabe. One more time for Gabe Shippey. So I want to give a quick thanks to the folks who are in office and running for office. Patrick Davenport was here but had to leave. We've also got Richard Winfield in the House running for Senate. John Q. Williams, who's running for sheriff and who I'm really excited to take that seat for the sheriff, is on his way, but some folks with his campaign are in the back. We got Tim Denson and Mariah Parker in the House. They'll be speaking in a minute. And Mocha Jasmine Johnson. Mocha for Georgia. Where's Mocha? I first met Mocha when Mocha reached out to Athens for Everyone and said, hey, we're doing a lot of really important stuff here to make the hip-hop community at the forefront of this, the music scene here in Athens, like it always needs to be. But there's all this awful discrimination that happens in town. And that got blown up in the national media when we had that awful drink, the watermelon shot, that I think you can all imagine if you don't know what it was called, margarita modified. And Mocha's like, this, we just can't, we have to make a change, we have to do something. And that seeded what began a movement of ever-growing largest marches in Athens' recent memory against discrimination. And we began to really win positive change. And Mocha founded the Athens Anti-Discrimination Movement. And Mocha's helped win and helped lead so many victories and is now running for office on the state level. If you live in District 6, you are also in Mocha's district. So please vote for Mocha. And I wanted to give Mocha a minute to talk to y'all. So, Mocha Johnson.
Thank you, Jesse. Hey, everybody, how y'all doing? I am so excited. I was just sitting here, and I'm not going to really stay up here for too long, but I was sitting here, and I'm thinking about 4 years ago, and I remember when I met Jesse, and Tim and I met at the table and we're talking, and I said, okay, well, Jesse and I have a very rebellious spirit. So if Tim and Noah's not around, we're gonna blow some shit up, okay? So Tim and Noah has to be around because we're so rebellious. So now 4 years later, I remember just a year ago, someone would ask if I would run for office. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna run for office. Like, that doesn't fit my mold, you know? And Jesse's one of those, we have similarities. So I am proud that a lot of us have stepped up to the plate because at the end of the day, no matter how much we advocate for policy changes as an activist, the person that's sitting behind the rail that can change the laws, write the policies, we are constantly going and fighting and asking them to do the right thing. Now, we want to take control and step up to the plate and stop asking. We say, vote us in and we will do the right thing, okay? 4 years of begging, and I'm sure he's probably been out here longer than I have because I call myself a baby activist. But before I step off this stage, I'm running for Georgia State House District 117. My name is Mocha Jasmine Johnson. You could check out my website at mochaforgeorgia.com. Also, I would like to give a shout out. I'm giving a shout out to all these people because few years from now, I want you guys to just think about this. 4 years ago, when I met Jesse and I met Tim, we were on the field. Tim is the one that really opened my eyes to make me even pay attention to local politics because I couldn't believe a bearded guy was actually running for mayor against, and I'm like, are they related or something? You know, and I'm like, wait a minute, hold up. He's being himself, and I like that. You know what I'm saying? But also what has transpired, what I'm seeing evolving is that I believe the status quo is changing because the people that used to march with me to City Hall are actually sitting at the table. So I want to give a shout out. I remember Mariah. I would say, Mariah, I was doing my protest one day, and I said, Mariah, you going to speak? She was like, nah, that's okay, I rap. I'm not going to speak, nah. And now Mariah has one of the biggest voices. She's stepped up. She's making change. She's ruffling feathers, you know what I'm saying? Tim Denson. For a minute, I'm like, wait a minute, what they going to do up there? But Tim has been riding and dying. I'm like, okay, he a brother. He a brother. He a brother. Okay, he a brother. You know what I'm saying? Beto. His brother, Mo. All of us have been doing this for a while. So I want to tell you, these are people that has been in the field, been in the community doing the work. Tim and Jesse showed me the way. I never did my first rally until, I met them. I'm like, okay, what do I do? Do I just march? They were like, Tim's like, maybe you need to get a permit first. You know what I mean? So I'm grateful for their guidance. I'm very happy to see so many wonderful people in this room that has been on ground level with me, and now we can finally make some real changes. So congratulations, Jesse, and I hope to see you behind the rail very soon.
Mocha Jasmine Johnson, District 117. All right, we're going to keep it going. About 12 years ago, I wanted to move somewhere warmer. I wanted to get away from where I grew up. Actually, maybe I'll share real quick. I grew up really broke, and that's not usually a story I like to share, because a lot of people do. I grew up in a really unstable situation, and kind of found my feet eventually, working multiple jobs since I was like 14, and was kind of like homeless for a bit, bouncing around when my dad was in prison, and found community in Massachusetts, where I had grown up in Central Mass, like Rust Belt, Massachusetts. But most of the people I knew were like really addicted to substances and really feeling a lot of hopelessness. And I felt like I loved those people, but I needed to find somewhere where I could start over and build community with people who connected with me on the things that I wanted to think were possible and that I wanted to make happen. And at the time, I was playing music and touring around, playing for 5 people at a time. And I had some friends I met from this town of Athens, Georgia. We began to tour to each other's small towns. They'd come up to Worcester, Massachusetts, and neighboring smaller towns, and I'd come down to Athens, and we'd play at like Hot Corner Cafe and Flicker Theater and houses and Kingpin's bowling alley and stuff. And one of those people was Tim Denson, who convinced me to come here. So I want to introduce my friend Tim Denson, who's the reason I'm probably here.
Hey, folks. So I only have a few minutes. I'm just gonna get right to it. I love this person. I've gotten politically involved and endorsed many people, but this one is at a deeper level, probably not ever will. I doubt another one of like my best. I hope some of my other best friends run for office. So I hope I get to say that again. But it's true. And going back to 2006, I guess, in a driveway of a barn in Massachusetts, I met Jesse and stayed up till like 5 a.m. talking about life, talking about Athens, talking about music, talking about politics. I'm sure it came up. Talking about how the world was going to end and how we could make it better before it did. And since then, you have some of those moments where you meet a person, and I'm definitely a bit of an introvert, so this is harder sometimes for me than others maybe. But like when you meet a person and you just have this connection, and you're like, this is a person that I can trust, that I know is there for me, that I will be there for, and that nothing else is going to get in between that. And the key part of that though isn't necessarily because of me. Although I think obviously Jesse and I have a strong friendship and a deep connection, but I think that's because that's how Jesse feels about people. That when it comes down to it, it's about how are people. What are their situations? Are they struggling? Is there something that I can do to help that struggle? Is there something that I can do to just help it be a little bit easier? And I think a lot of that's because, and I know like Jesse's been through that himself. But that's the first place that Jesse's mind goes. And if we want to seriously talk about what's wrong with politics on every single level, from local to state to national, it's that we don't have enough people that's where their mind goes when they're presented with a problem or an issue with a policy. And I understand why somewhat now. Like being in this now, like you get hit with stats and numbers and studies and all these things, and it's very easy to get lost and forget that every single thing that we do on a government level, every single thing is about how are we going to care for people. Everything. And at least it should be. And it's obvious now that things have changed and things get to like, well, how can we make some people money? Or how can we make sure that these people who are friends and buddies of mine keep some power or do something? But that's the way it's supposed to be. And if we want to actually change this system, if we actually want to change this world, we need to start electing people and putting people in those decision-making bodies who first think about how is this going to help or affect or benefit or hurt people. It's not complicated. We've made it complicated, but it's not complicated. And Jesse and I have been through a lot together, crazy stuff, touring, playing weird house shows in Colorado we won't get into the details of. Are debating so much politics, usually almost always for some reason at 3:30 in the morning when I have to work the next day. And those of y'all who know Jesse know that's true. And I look forward to those debates happening behind the rail at City Hall. And I think this community would be better for it if they were. And so that's why I'm here, because we need a person that believes with people. We need a person who's going to fight for things like a tenants' Bill of Rights, who's going to be able to, that I can work with and fight for fair, free transit. It's going to fight for it to actually have a human rights ordinance, anti-discrimination ordinance put on the books. And Mariah can speak to this too. You would think that we've got some people in there and these things, it's not, there's resistance. And we've got to get, that resistance has to be getting rid of. And we need to replace it with a person, when they look at a piece of paper and it has those decisions on it, they think, which one of these is going to help the people in this community that I love? It's that simple. And I know and I will bet everything that Jesse Houle will do that.
Tim Denson, my friends. Commissioner Tim Denson. Flagpole likes to say failed mayoral candidate Tim Denson. We always laugh about that, but we've really considered it a success from the get. The slogan was Tim for Athens, Athens for everyone. The plan was to start an organization called Athens for Everyone, win or lose. And I think there's a lot of evidence that, we've had a lot of successes. So I take issue with Flagpole's framing. So successful Commissioner Tim Denson, and also super importantly, graphic designer, artist extraordinaire, silent partner, and powerhouse, Jennifer Winchell Denson, who made the logos for this campaign. So there's a whole side to politics that's not electoral. I actually think that's what politics is. Politics is human beings engaging with each other. And electoral politics is, in its ideal form and in its useful form, in service of that. And so I want to invite a couple people up who are going to talk a bit more about the non-electoral side of politics, who are going to talk about the political struggles that are very real in our lives, that we have power to change right now and every day, and that also have a legislative component that we're going to push forward in City Hall. The first person I'd like to call up is Hattie Thomas Whitehead from the Linen-Town Project. Please give it up for Hattie Thomas Whitehead. She and a number of folks who lived through urban development have decided to relive their story and tell it so that we can make real change for and with them. So Hattie Thomas Whitehead, y'all.
I am so happy to be here today. Besides knowing that Jesse is going to make a difference, I live in District 6. I live in District 6, and I am so happy that he is running because I know I'm going to vote for him. And also, I'm going to encourage others to vote for him because he is the type person that he states the truth. He stands on it. He's not flippy-floppy. He's not syrupy at the mouth, I call it. Stuff don't just slide out of it. He is basically an organizer, but he's a fighter. And when I met him not long ago about Linen-Town, he was there. He understood the fight that we were up against, the powers to be in Athens. We were basically, if you don't know the story, we were basically kicked out of our neighborhood in the 60s. With the city of Athens, the mayor, the commissioners, and UGA targeted our small black community off of Baxter Street because they wanted the property to build dormitories. We were a thriving community. Yes, we were poor, but we had hard-working people there. 40% of the people that lived in that community had managed to buy their property, making $10 a week and $8 a week. With 7, 8 children, they still managed to buy property. Couldn't go to a bank to fill out a mortgage loan. This was before integration. They did it the best that they could, borrowed money from families, from the people they worked for, and from loan companies. My father bought our house, and when all of it went down, we got $4,000. Where were we going with $4,000 with 7 children? Where was my mom and dad going? It was a struggle. The whole community was in an uproar because we had nobody to turn to. There was nobody there to fill out this loan, to help you move, to help negotiate anything. Nobody talked to the community. The only thing they said was, get out. We were terrorized by UGA. We were terrorized. Some of the entrances was cut off. You couldn't get some of the in and out. They started up the heavy equipment at night, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning. They dug ditches in front of our homes. I remember when I got out of school, I had to jump the ditch to go in the house. Some of the properties that they acquired, they pushed them down. People we had known that lived there for years, they pushed them down. And some of the houses were burned. We were a thriving neighborhood. The people in my neighborhood built was burned down. Okay? So I'm here to tell you what urban renewal and eminent domain can do to poor people when the city of Athens, along with the UGA, want the property. And I was involved in civil rights at that time. I was jailed, and I was doing the day, and at night I was going home to my community listening what happened. To the people there were crying, trying to figure out where they were going to go. I want y'all to know that I don't dislike UGA. I don't dislike Athens. But I'm standing here to say they got to make it right. They got to make it right. And when I sat down with Jesse and told him the story of about the community and what happened to ordinary citizens like me, he was right there with me. He said, I will do what I can do to help you all and your team to make it right. And we need people like Jesse in office that the average citizen can talk to. That's the type of people we need in office, that people like me and my team, the Leonardtown project team, can talk to. And he's not afraid of talking to people like UGA and the council and the mayor. He's not afraid. And we need people like that dedicated to making a change. A change in this community for all the powers to be, that have all these connections that we don't know about. But he'll find out about them. He'll find out. And he'll clip that change. He'll cut it. And that's the kind of people that we need. I don't want to take up a whole lot of your time, but I just want you to know that I think that he's the best. That's what I can tell you. I'm going to vote for him, and I'm going to tell others to vote for him in my community as well. Thank you.
One more time for Hattie Thomas Whitehead and the people of the Leonardtown Project. Please do come visit our table, talk about what we can do together, but also please visit them and the other organizations here. Talk to the folks, Joey Carter and Hattie Thomas Whitehead, who are here with the Lindentown Project, and tell you a whole lot more. And you can sign up to get involved with them as well. I want to call up another person I've been struggling with for a long time, and it feels like a short time. I don't even know how much of your resume to give, so I'll let you decide which things you want to highlight. But there are some people that the fire burns within so bright that every time you're with them, you know that something's going to happen. And one of those people is my sibling in the struggle, Rochelle Berry. So please give it up for Rochelle Berry.
Thank you. Oh, okay, a little shorter than all of you. Thank you for that introduction. That was really beautiful. So I was thinking about what I might say at this. I'm in the middle of my comprehensive exam. So if anybody of you know how stressed and how much energy that takes to be here is instead of reading or doing something else is really important to me. It's important to me because when I got to this community and was I'm gonna get this PhD and I'm gonna do it as fast as I can and then leave, I was hit over the head with the fact that all politics are local. I can have this great understanding of all of these problems that are global and national, and I can read all of these books and learn as much as I want about them, but if I don't think about what's happening right outside my door, then I can just scream into the abyss on Twitter and Facebook and not really do anything about it. So meeting Jesse and being a part of AFRE and knowing that and learning actually that these movements are consistently building on each other, that there is no failure, right? The act of doing is going to build into the next action. Right, and you can look at what's happened in this community to understand that, right? The campaign for Tim Denson to looking at the commission today is an understanding of how change is happening through these actions, but we have to be there to actually do them, right? And not be set back by when we don't get what we demand, because we know that there's going to be more to come and that we will be there the next time, right? If anybody was there when I read at Hindershots at Jesse's last show, it's we will be back. We weren't back the next day. We weren't even back the next month, but we will be back because we're building consistently in this movement. So when we think about problems of climate change, when we think about racial inequality and all of these other issues that are so massive, so global, we have to be thinking about how they're interacting globally, how we're participating in them, and what we can do to change them. And because Jesse has been in this for so long, what is actually possible in Athens, the first person I'm going to talk to about what is possible in Athens is Jesse, because all of those little minutiae and the way that the Georgia state has crushed our ability to have progressive politics, Jesse has been thinking about that for years. And so I couldn't imagine a better person to be on the commission, to be writing these policies and fighting for the politics that are going to address these issues at this moment.
Rochelle Berry, everybody. I got one more brief speaker I want to introduce. He just won an award yesterday for a lifetime of fighting for sustainability and winning changes for environmental justice. And also, I happen to know some things about his fights for racial and economic justice throughout his whole life. And then Mariah Parker's going to get up here, and we're going to get real hyped together. And I hope maybe y'all will move in from the perimeter, and then we'll do a Q&A together, and then everyone can kind of mingle and eat and sip as you see fit for however long we want, because Akademia, thank you, Akademia, has offered us this space for free for however long we want it. But please give it up for my friend, my dear communard, Dan Everett.
right, thank you. Well, Jesse Houle walked into my life a few years ago. We were having a meeting to set up an organization to end corporate personhood and repeal the Citizens United decision. And in walks Jesse and Adam Lassa. And over the time I've known Jesse, we have been more and more impressed with the passion and commitment and ability of this young person. Everything they have done, from the Occupy Athens to the Athens for Everyone to the Tim Denson campaign to this, and to all the things that they have done with the economic and social justice community in this town, everything that they have done is driven by a total passion for justice. That's who they are. That's who they are. All right? And it takes more than passion for justice. You also have to have the ability to understand how things work to make things happen. All right? And I'm saying that because I claim to be either the oldest person in the room or pretty close to it. And so my thought about the thoughts of older voters in the District 6 is they're not necessarily freaked out by progressivism. They're just scared of having some kind of radical, wild-eyed guy that doesn't understand how things work, doesn't understand how the city works. Well, that person is not Jesse Houle. Jesse is so impressive in understanding how everything works, and he's got all the networks to make things work, to really bring more progressive power into the city. So Jesse's really the person who's really going to get the job done. I was asked by Jesse to say a little bit about 100% Athens. We're part of the team that's helping to figure out the plan to take Athens to 100% renewable energy, something that has to be done, but we're still figuring out how to do it. And a lot of that we hope is going to take place on the neighborhood level. So Jesse's ideas of building community and building town halls and relationships with the local residents of District 6 is really going to help when we get down and say, okay, we've got to rehab every poor energy performing building in this whole town. All right? So we got to know the people, we got to talk to the people, we've got to show the people that this is to everyone's advantage. It's going to bring jobs to our community. It's going to save people money who live in District 6. And in order to have those conversations, we need leadership who can actually make it happen and actually build those contacts. That's the sort of thing. Everything that Jesse's done is something that I would have been scared to attempt. This person has a whole lot of guts. And they can do it. They can do this stuff. So I'm really proud to be here and be part of making Jesse your next District 6 commissioner. Thank you.
One more time for my friend Dan Everett and the 100% Athens crew. This person probably warrants no introduction because I'm fairly sure y'all know who they are. Quite possibly, I like to talk a lot about the fire. I think about that book, and there's a movie, The Road, and people talk about, and it's bleak. And when I read that book, I hated it. I was in a book club with Tim and Jenny, and I hated that book. I was like, why am I reading about scrounging through cans over and over again for 200 pages? But that book has sat with me more than almost any book, because it's raining ash, and it's this lifeless, awful, dismal place to be. And there are these two characters that are trudging forth in the face of just one awful thing after another. And the metaphor they use is that they're carrying the fire. And every once in a while you meet someone who's carrying the fire all the time. And that person, one of those people, is Mariah Parker.
I got this. You'd think I'd never held a microphone before, but I've been around one or two in my day. How y'all doing today? Make some noise if you're feeling good. Make some noise if you're feeling good. Make some noise if you're ready to make some change here in Athens, Georgia. I'm so feel so delighted to be here today. I just barely made it. I just drove back from Charleston, South Carolina, where I was knocking on doors for Senator Bernard Sanders. And while I was out there, you know, we knocked on doors for hours and hours, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And sometimes, you know, the doors wouldn't open. Sometimes the people were too busy to talk, and sometimes an hour would go by and we wouldn't even have a single conversation. But then you have that one conversation where you realize that you're waking someone up to not only what is possible, but what they deserve from their government. And to think about how many thousands of people are out doing the same thing as me, all over the state. And the people I met from Tennessee, in Kentucky, in Georgia, in Baltimore, in Philadelphia, who had converged to try to make change happen for South Carolina. Was incredible. And I bring that up now because I think it tells us a lot about what we need to do here in Athens. And I could talk all day, we could all talk all day about how incredible a leader Jesse Houle will be at City Hall. I could talk all day. I could write novels on Jesse Houle. But I bring up this notion of the power of what we can do when we mobilize en masse, because I want to tell you something about you. I want to tell you about the power that you have in your hands right now to unite behind the visionary leadership of a person who truly cares about the most marginalized people in Athens. The change that we can bring. If we get out there, we put on our comfy walking shoes and hit those doors, and we get down in our chair with a little glass of red wine and make those phone calls. We reach deep down in our pockets and bring out that $5 bill and get on that blue and drop a little cash for Jesse Houle. With every little act, with every little thing that we do, us, standing here in this building, can transform not only District 6, but this entire city. And not only can we will! I'm asking you to push. I'm asking you to push. Because that's what Jesse would do. The selfless character that I've seen Jesse exhibit, the kind of care he exhibits for every single person that they meet, is something that has inspired me and kept me going through my struggles at City Hall. I will never forget Jesse. It was early in my first term as commissioner, and we met up to get coffee, and I couldn't remember what coffee house we were supposed to meet at. I was walking all around the city because I, hadn't slept the night before and I hadn't eaten all day, and I'm getting 1,000 emails and people calling me on the phone, and we finally meet up and we chat, and Jesse's bringing these gems of insight and this just incredible warmth of support about how we're going to make this all work. And I don't know what exactly almost brought me to tears. But Jesse could see. I had tears in my eyes as we began to part. And Jesse asked me, Mariah, when was the last time you ate something? And I thought about it. And I said, I guess it's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I said, I guess it hasn't been since 4 o'clock in the morning. And Jesse reached in their back pocket or in their backpack and pulled out a Cliff Bar. And said, have this. And if I was almost about to cry before, I was definitely like, then. But that's the kind of person that Jesse is. Jesse will give you their last Cliff Bar. And so I'm asking you, everyone here today, give Athens your last Cliff Bar. Put on those comfy walking shoes. Reach deep down in that wallet, see if you got a couple cents. Get up that cell phone and make a couple calls. Talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends, talk to yourself, and tell that voice inside you that says we have to wait for people who are more prepared to do the work that's needed to do to transform this city, because no, we are the people that will do the work. We have the leadership right here in front of us. And can I rap for y'all really quick? Is that? There wasn't really a smooth transition into that, so I just thought I figured I'd hit it. You see, I'm seeing bat signals up in the Gotham bottom skies. A lot of mass killers talking ish when their names anonymized. But I am not the type to type and not forget what you thought online. Got the gun a pin so I could grasp triggers like Private Ryan. But we prefer being in the government. Make it swing to the left like a conga line as we usher in the forgotten kinds, the black and Latinx, the younger kids, and the Wonder Women who be running winning to restructure systems like our justice system. Reproductive issues getting undermined. Might have been under the Reagan administration, never undermined. A lot of relationships between the church and the state, the boss and the laborers, the cops and their neighbors, the doctors, the laborers, the blacks and the bankers, the gays and they cake bakers, us and the nation. Cauterize it, then you call it fine. That's like Putland or broccoli, cauliflower, like apples and oranges. Next thing you know, it's a riot outside from Newark to New Orleans. But look, bottom line is from bottom up, coast to coast. If it's a lot of us, if 109 ran for offices, we can seize the power and resolve all this. I was never the ideal candidate, but I'll die before I kneel candidly. So I'm handing you what was handed me. If you ain't running this, you really stand to be. So will you stand with Jesse? Let me hear you make some noise. Will you walk with Jesse? Let me hear you make some noise. Will you run with Jesse? Let me hear you make some noise. Let's get it done, y'all. And so it's my pleasure to welcome back to the stage our next District 6 Commissioner, Jesse Houle.
Mariah Parker. All right. Woo, deep breaths. Okay. I'm going to start with some gratitude. That's for all of you here for being here. That's for Akademia for providing us the space. That's for so many volunteers it would take way too much time to list to help make this day happen, who have helped make this campaign happen, and who are continuing to make it happen. All of us continuing to make it happen. I want to give a shout out to the organizations that are tabling in the room. We have the Linentown Project and Athens for Everyone right there. I want to give a shout out to John Q. Williams running for sheriff. Please talk to John Q., our next sheriff. My inclination when I talk to people about politics is usually to talk about what we can do, what we are doing. My inclination usually is to talk about how we're going to do that and why I think it's important, why we know it's important. What I'm adjusting to now that my name and face is on a bunch of stuff is answering this question first. Why are you running? People want to know the personal, why am I running? So I want to take this moment to share with you why I'm running. I have 4 parts I'm going to share. And the first is, this is my home. I chose this place as my home. And I want to make sure that we build a home that anyone can choose to make their home too. And that it's a place where they not only survive, but they thrive. This is where I choose to be, and I believe in this place, and I know it can be better. The second reason why I'm running is because I'm tired. I'm really tired. I thought about this at 3 o'clock in the morning when I was working on a bunch of data and sign-up lists and answering emails the other night, 2 nights ago. I couldn't sleep, and I was like, I'm so tired. And I was like, that's it, actually. I'm tired. I'm tired of people talking about poverty in this community and not making meaningful change to address it and redress it. I'm tired of poverty being the talking point for Athens, Georgia. I'm tired of people talking about poverty and not talking about wealth inequality, because we are not just the most impoverished percentage-wise community that has 100,000 or more people in it in this country. We also, of any county in this country, we have the 12th highest wealth inequality rate, which means that we're not a poor community. It just means that those resources need to get spread out. I'm tired of people looking for how someone appears instead of the substance of what they want to do and the substance of their character. People keep convincing me I need to look a certain way, do a certain thing, be a kind of way so I look like a candidate. But that's not how we transform politics. We transform politics by being who we are together and making what we know needs to happen, happen. I'm tired of people who want to talk about electoral politics pretending like that's all that politics is, because it's not all that politics is. I said this earlier, politics is in service of our daily lives. Electoral politics is but one small component of the personal, and the personal is political. Everything we do every day is a political act, and I am so proud to be in a room full of people who I believe recognize that. There's one more thing I want to share about what I'm tired of. I'm tired of going to City Hall and hearing people say no. I'm tired of saying, can you please hear us? We're so used to saying our voices must be heard that we forget that it's not about other people hearing us. It's about action. And I am tired of people who have the power to act failing to act. I am tired of people who look folks in the face like Hattie Thomas Whitehead and say, I support you, but. That's right. I want people who say yes and. I support you and I know this is going to be hard. I support you and I know it's going to be a long road. I support you and maybe I don't have all the answers, but I am with you and I'm going to make this happen. And that brings me to my next point. I am not only tired, I like that this rhymed when I thought of it, so I'm going with it even though it's corny. I am inspired. I am inspired by the people in this room. I am inspired by the thousands of people in Athens who are not in this room, but I know they are busy. They are tired. They are struggling. They are struggling to feel hope, and yet they still have it, and they're working to make it happen. They're raising their kids. They're bringing them to daycare. They're fighting for change in City Hall, and they're fighting for change in their community day in and day out. I am inspired by you for choosing, of all the places you could be, to come here. And I don't think you did it because of me. I think you did it because of everyone else in this room. I think you did it because you believe we can make something happen. Because you know we are making something happen just by being here. And you know that there's work to do and you're willing to do it. And that brings me to my fourth and final point before I want to open this up for a Q&A. And if you don't want to stick around for the Q&A, that's fine, but please pass by the table on your way out. Please take some lit. Take more than one because you want to give some to some people. Sign up, at least to get the emails, but maybe also to volunteer. Lean into that discomfort a little bit and get out and knock some doors with us. I don't usually tie what I'm doing here into my work at Nucci Space, but Nucci Space has this phrase, you are not alone. And we're talking about suicide prevention and stuff when we're there. And I've struggled with that. And because the personal is political, I want to share with you that I had a lifetime of struggling with depression, of being mentally ill, spending most of my life living below the poverty line, struggling to imagine what could be possible. And the only way I got through any of that was because I was with other people. And so why I'm running is because I know that I'm not alone. I'm running because I know that you're with me. And that I'm with you, and that we are with many more people than who are here today, and some of them don't know that they're with us yet, but we're going to bring them in. I know that I'm not alone in recognizing that when we talk about poverty, we have to talk about wealth inequality, and more importantly, when we talk about economic justice, that we have to marry that conversation to racial justice. Because you can't have economic justice without a conversation that's honest about race and the legacy of slavery and colonialism and Jim Crow that's given us the very racialized poverty and incarceration rates and general bullshit that we have in our community today. And you can't talk about racial justice without actually saying, we're going to put some money into that. So what's going to happen when I'm in City Hall is I'm going to be with you figuring out when people who are sitting with me behind that rail who say, no, I don't know if we can do that. Maybe there's this or that clause. I don't know what the budget's tight. I'm going to say, No, we're going to do that. We're going to find a way to do that. We are going to transform this community, and that's not just about nice conversations. That's not just about removing racist monuments. That's about material redress. I also know that I'm not alone in understanding what it's like to struggle to afford a place to live. I didn't realize how constant the conversation around affordable housing would be until I started knocking doors on this campaign. But almost everyone I talk to wants to talk about that. And while we're living under capitalism, we need to find creative and effective ways to ensure that people have dignity, and that includes a place to live. And then when we talk about that, that includes everybody who wants to be here, because the racist systems that have kept my brothers like Beto and Noe from being able to run for office when they might want to, they probably don't actually, but there are other folks I know who would, and they can't, and we need to be there with them. And I know that I'm not alone in being there with them. I didn't have a canned speech. I didn't write something in advance. So that was just kind of my outline of 4 things there. And I'd like to open it up for a Q&A with y'all. But before we get to that, Megan had encouraged me to maybe do a chant. Now, I know that feels really corny to some people, especially if you've been doing it for a long time. But I actually think it's important because there's this thing that's sometimes hard to describe, but that we feel when we say things in unison that matters. Now, I'm not sure which chant to do. I thought about a bunch of different ones. But I think I want to share one that we did on the steps of City Hall when we were talking about Linentown, because we knew that victory was not some far-off goal that we might reach. We knew that victory was a day-to-day process. We knew that right now, in the process of doing the work, we're already winning. And so it goes like this. It goes, I believe that we, I believe that we will. I believe that we will win. 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 Woo! Thank you all. Does anybody have any questions?
You wait so long!
Oh boy.
How can we help you?
How can you help me? Well, there is a table there with some materials. You can sign up to volunteer. We need volunteers. That looks like going door to door. That also looks like making phone calls. That also looks like filling out postcards to people you know who live in the district. Filling out postcards to people you don't know who live in the district. That looks like feeding people when we have events. That looks like maybe hosting an event at your house. That looks like helping us do the work that beautiful volunteers behind that table are doing. Giving it up for those volunteers so that we can be at more events and we have a presence that is a we and not just me. And there is also that you can donate. So this is a working class campaign, and I am a working class person. I understand that many people in this room may not have a lot to give. But if you've got $20 and you think you can spare it to make this happen, then please give us $20. And if you've got a bit more, if you're somebody who's accustomed to writing $100, $200, maybe $500 checks to big organizations that you know can make change, or to candidates running for a bigger office, remember that how we transform this community is by putting people in these small seats that are part of a big body that are going to make big change. And so if you have the ability to donate more, please donate. That's how you can help. Thank you for reminding me, Mariah. Mariah's better at the money thing than I am. Does anybody have any other questions? Maybe about the platform or your personal life?
We trust you. You got it.
All right. What are some issues that you're hearing while you go door to door? What's the and how are you going to tackle them? Yeah.
Okay. What are some issues I hear when I go door to door, and how are we going to tackle it? So I already talked about housing comes up a lot. Jobs that pay enough come up a lot. Businesses is a lot of things. People want to talk about economic uplift. through business. What kind of business are we going to bring to town? What kind of businesses are we going to support? And I like that there's a general leaning of progressive people to talk about local business, but I think we need to go further. It's not just about small local businesses, although that is important. We need to think about the kind of business that we're bringing in, and that's not just the size of it, but is their wage floor a living wage floor? Do they have democracy in their workplace? Are they willing to say, hey, these state laws basically allow us to severely exploit the people who work for me, but I'm willing to lean in and have some extra HR policies so that we can't just fire someone at will. We're actually going to have a just cause clause. And so I would like for the Athens-Clarke County government to use its economic development department to help resource local businesses to figure out how to treat their workers better and pay their workers more.
Yeah! You consider trying to find a way to challenge whatever it is about our state statutes that prevent us from putting caps on rental prices?
Yes. So the question was, are we going to, what can we do to challenge the state government who's keeping us from being able to put caps on rental prices? This is kind of, is that a fair summary? Yeah. So yeah, there is a state law that says we can't do rent control like we've seen in other states. So what can we do for affordable housing? And the truth is, I've learned a lot of things just since I began running about affordable housing policy that I didn't know before I decided to. You start learning a lot more because people want to talk to you once your name's going to be on the ballot. And Ted Terry, a friend of mine who's former mayor of Clarkston, running for DeKalb County Commissioner, talked to me at length about anti-displacement funds. We talked a bit about what could be built into a renter's bill of rights. We talked a lot about what the possibilities behind land banking are and how that can look. And so while we can't have rent control right now, I think we can do two things. The first is we can continue to build community to stand up to the state government, to change those state policies, and to put better people in office like Mocha, who's running for State House. Yeah. But the other thing we can do is find creative and effective ways to act on the local level. And I think that looks like a renter's bill of rights, an anti-displacement fund, looking into land banking and things like that. Gabe?
Get into a little policy detail if that's okay.
That's yeah.
Read an article a few days ago in Red and Black where my understanding is the sustainability officer, Andrew Saunders, he presented a proposal to the Legislative Review Committee of the broader Clarke County Commission where he was going to basically require new buildings to apply sustainable building practices. Yeah. Chamber of Commerce came in and said, well, we think we should go more in the direction of incentivizing rather than mandating. Does Commissioner Houle mandate that?
Commissioner Houle mandates everything Commissioner Houle can to make sure that we have a planet to live on after Commissioner Houle's no longer in office. So, again, there are some state laws that require us to do incentivizing where we can't mandate, and we should advocate to change those laws, and being on the commission gives you an elevated and more effective voice to do so. And also there are mandates we can put in place that we don't. Anything that has public funding attached to it can have more strict riders. And I think that the Chamber of Commerce is the exact kind of organization that we need to turn the volume down on a little bit so we can turn the volume up on people who know that we actually need affordable housing and that we actually need sustainable infrastructure when we're building that affordable housing, and also commercial developments and things like that. So, yes. Michelle.
How do you plan to hold the university accountable, if you do?
So, the question is, how do we plan to hold the university accountable? Complicated, because the Clarke County government does not oversee the university in some way. However, the Clarke County government does oversee the infrastructure of this city and the services of this city, many of which people who work for and administrate the university and live in the university depend upon. So I think we use that as leverage to turn what I think has been an abusive relationship into an actually cooperative relationship. And I think it's going to take courage of people behind the rail, I know I'm not alone in this, to be able to say that to administrators and leaders at the university so that we can bring those changes about, so that when we're at the table working for cooperation, it's actually cooperation. One and then two, yes.
I'm not your typical demographic. I disagree with this gentleman. I'm the oldest one anyway. I came to Athens in 1966 to go to the University of Georgia. My generation tried to change things. We were very young. We were very idealistic.
And very stupid.
And Athens did not change. Athens has more bureaucracy and bullshit than most governments. You're young and very idealistic. What makes you think that you'll be able to make the changes to Athens that generations before you have not?
Oh, that's a very good question with a slightly different preface than I would give it, which is what makes me think that I can. Did y'all hear that? Okay. So, I mean, first, I think we need to learn from our history, which involves working with and listening to people such as yourself who have been working for this for so long, and to continue to work with you for what we can do now. A lot of what we are able to do now, I believe, is actually built on the work that has been done in the past. As far as the ways that I think you described it as like there's even more bureaucracy and still all this bull that's going on, right? And I guess I would say evaluation is a key part of that, like having evaluation built into the processes that we put in place, and also like self-evaluating and collectively evaluating as a community and how we approach things. I also think it's important to retain that vision for what's possible and have that be what guides us. So it's important to understand our history and figure out effective ways to build off of it. And it's important also, I think, to continue to cultivate that sense of possibility. I had this high school teacher, one of my favorites, who said this thing that really stuck with me, and it was never lose your sense of possibility. I wrote it down and carried it around on the back of my notebook for years. And I don't think we should confuse that with naivety, right? We're up against big things, big inertia, big powers, small timelines when it comes to things like climate change, right? And we're talking about local government. Like I can stand up here and talk about a Green New Deal in Athens, and I can talk about economic and racial justice, but a lot of what needs to happen on a scale that is bigger than what the local government can do. But I think it's important that we think about those big ideas to guide us in what we can do, so that when we're reacting to a development that comes before us, so that when we're reacting to a proposal that folks who are part of that bureaucracy give us, we are making decisions based on that bigger vision of what's possible instead of just rubber stamping a bunch of stuff. So part of that's like actually reading the things before you vote on them, which is something I plan to do and not everyone who's there currently does. And also part of that is thinking, well, what is actually the best decision for this? But most importantly, I think it's working in collaboration with other commissioners and the mayor to have better policies and have better ordinances in place so that what's brought to us is better in the first place to react to. And I actually think that's part of what's been lacking, at least in the 12 years I've been here, is that we don't see proactive approach to government. We see people reacting to what's happening, and sometimes they're reacting to people who are doing cool things, like when we're advocating for living wages or county buses being expanded and being fare free. But we're not seeing people actually say, what would be a comprehensive suite of housing legislation that will actually provide affordable housing in this community? So I think part of it is also being proactive in a way that I'm not sure what was happening 30 years ago. I wasn't here, and I'd love to learn, so maybe I can figure out how to not repeat mistakes. But I can say that in the time I have been here, that's part of what I see the need for. Do you feel like that answered your question?
As best as you could. Answer that anyone could give.
And was it Beto? Yeah.
So it's about balance. How you think to find the balance and put it in perspective. We love art. Athens is very artistic, and we have the most beautiful stops, bus stops in the country. But when it's raining, they're worthless. So how we balance that beauty of and make it sure at the same time it's working for the people who's waiting for the bus, but in general,
So I think the question was, how do we balance kind of the beauty that we're seeing being funded with things like the really beautiful bus stops with the actual needs of the community, which, using the bus stops as the example, is like, some of these bus stops are very beautiful, but if it's raining, you're going to get wet still. And when I hear that question off the cuff, where I go is having a balanced group of people involved in the decision-making process, and not having a government and committees of the government that are operating behind closed doors and are generally operating like far off in like opaque, aloof places, and also bringing in more people to be a part of the government process. This is, of course, town halls is one way to do that, but also when we make advisory boards, that we're actually empowering those advisory boards with decision-making power, so that the things that get funded are in part decided upon by the community itself, and like sharing that power out in the decision-making power, and then also bringing people in. Like when those buses were being designed, I don't know, but I'm wondering how many people who ride the bus every day were part of the consultation for the design. Because I would think that if you had riders involved in deciding on those designs and giving feedback on those designs before they were built, they'd be like, I need to be dry though. Does that feel like yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah, I'll take, I guess, one more question, and then however many more y'all want, I'm here all day, but I'll take one from Walt, and then, yeah.
One of the problems, I think, with Athens-Clarke County government is so many of the workers are hired from outside of Athens-Clarke County. Do you know that, and can you think of work on ways to incentivize hiring locally rather than out of the county?
Yes.
The poverty we have here.
Yes. Thank you for reminding me. I kind of left that out when we talk about when we're funding business, sort of the mission we give groups like the Economic Development Department to recruit businesses or to uplift businesses that are here. That it is about living wages and workers' rights, and it's also about making sure that the jobs that are being created are actually for people who already live here. If there is, I don't know if you know, Tim, is there like a study already done on how many people who are employed by Athens businesses actually live here?
There has been a study, and it is a considerable amount.
Yeah. So, yeah, I would think when we're talking about incentives and when possible mandates, we need to look at part of that being uplift for people who actually live here, and thinking about bringing in the kinds of businesses that will support people who live here. Does that feel like an adequate answer to your question, or okay? Yeah.
More of the government itself. That you're going to be working for, incentivizing their departments to hire locally.
Yeah. Okay. So this actually ties into something I would like to talk about while I still have the mic, and that's unpaid inmate labor. So that's something that we need to abolish. It's disgusting that we have hundreds of people who are locked in cages and then are only allowed out to do work for us for free. So I think a great place to start is to turn those jobs into living wage jobs. I'm proud of the mayor and commission, kind of led by Tim spearheading, getting some amount of money for folks doing that work. And then the Georgia Department of Corrections immediately responded with, we're not going to take the money. And they made a policy that we couldn't give that money to them. So instead of giving up, which is tempting to do time and again, we need to think, well, what can we do? And I think we opt out of this handshake with the prison industrial complex. We get rid of the prison, we turn those jobs into jobs that pay a living wage, and we make sure, because they're county jobs, then we can mandate it, that those jobs go to people who live here, and we prioritize hiring people who have a record to do them. And I think we can build those kinds of policies into the other things the county government is paying. So I'm going to hand the mic over to Megan, and then I'll be here for however many more questions and conversations y'all want to have. Thank you so much for being here.
All right, if you can keep that going, but it will